Okay, so I guess I'll start with some thank yous. First, I'd like to thank Miss Sarah Rizza. Where is she? Sarah is proof that we work with wonderful student leaders here at Southern. She is a great example of some of our best and brightest, and she did an awesome job. So before I begin, could we please applaud Sarah Rizza one more time? I missed a step. I think everyone knows that I'm Sal Rizza, but I'm Sal Rizza. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Life here at Southern. And a few weeks ago, a month ago, I'm not exactly sure, Rick, where's Rick? Rick sent me an email. Oh wait, I didn't finish with my thank yous. Let me go back to it. I'd like to thank some of my family and friends that are here, starting with my mom, Mrs. Liliana Rizza. Thank you for being here. My brother and his wife and my wife, who are all here, as well as my family and friends that have come out to support me. Thank you very much. It's important to me that you're here to support me in this. Thank you. I'd like to thank Rick. Special thank you to Rick Rauchi and the Last Lecture Series Committee, Jamie, Jen, and Denise, for giving me the honor, the privilege to be able to do this. It is truly, I feel so, I can't say honored, and I'm really happy to be doing this. And lastly, I'd like to thank all of you, the students, because you are the reason we do what we do. So thank you all for being here. So, going back, a couple of weeks ago, probably a month ago, Rick had sent me an email and asked if I would present. I'm going to walk around like this. This is what I do. Probably rock back and forth. You guys can make fun of me later. Rick had asked me if I would present the last lecture. And for those of you who know me at all, you know that I'm relatively, if not extremely, paranoid. So the concept of a last lecture kind of took me by surprise because I am not ready to do a last lecture. I have a long time to go before I get to that point. So I had to convince myself that this wasn't my last lecture. It was one of my last lectures. So hopefully, well, at least I've convinced myself I'll be doing this again before my time comes. But then I thought, what if this was my last lecture, what would I talk about? What message do I have to deliver? And to be honest with all of you, it's actually pretty easy. It's a message that I have worked on or I have believed in for a long time. What I hope to do today is to teach everyone here how to find your personal wins through simple reflection. I plan on doing this by sharing some of the stories in my life, in terms of places that I found some personal wins and how I came to the resolution that they were wins, even when the end result wasn't necessarily a win. The idea of winning is truly achieving your goals and being able to meet your own expectations. So what happens when we can't meet those expectations? What happens when we aren't able to achieve our goals? That's what I'd like to talk about and explore a little bit. Dr. Randy Pausch's audience, for his last lecture, although it was his family, his faculty, his staff, his friends that were sitting in front of him, his true audience were his children because he only had a few months to live and he wanted to leave them with something. My audience is all of you, and I hope that some of my words can be taken and move forward from here so that you can leave and maybe spread some of what I believe to others. Okay, so Willie, what we'll be doing today. I'm going to talk about some stories from when I was a kid, some lessons that I learned. I'm going to talk about something I call the formula. And I'm hoping that I could talk about a little bit about finding your wins and helping others find theirs. So where am I going to begin? I went to Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parochial School, Meriden, Connecticut. So to start, I have to take you back. We wore green polyester pants and yellow shirts and plaid ties. Every day, uniforms. And the school was small, maybe 100, 120 kids. I can't remember. And my class never got bigger than the size of 18. We graduated 18 in 1989. Some of you were not even born. And Willie, click one time. That's me right there. And just like any other school or pageant, just like any other school, we had pageants and shows. And obviously this is some type of reenactment of the Nativity. I have no idea what I was doing. I was probably in some kind of choir or chorus, and for those of you who have ever heard me sing, that is scary. But I do remember one thing. I always wanted to be one of the people in front on the stage. I always wanted a part. So a few years later, and I don't remember what grade I was in here, maybe 4th or 5th grade, a few years later, Our Lady of Mount Carmel School decided to do a Christmas carol. And I had decided that I was going to audition. And I was going to audition for the part of Jacob Marley, because I thought it was fun, and I could walk around saying, Ebenezer! So I learned my lines, and I studied real hard, and I learned the play, and I did the best I could, and I auditioned, and I did not get the part. And I didn't quite understand why, because I had done everything I could to prepare for that part. I had learned the lines. What made somebody better than me? But I wasn't going to sit back and not do anything. So I went to the musical director / science teacher, Mrs. Page, who was a hippie. She had an acoustic guitar with a rainbow strap. And I said, Mrs. Page, I want to be in the play. I'll do anything. She said, okay, you could be the curtain operator. I said, fine, I will work the curtain. So what did I do? I stood behind the curtain, and I was the best damn curtain operator you could ever imagine. I didn't miss a cue, I didn't miss a beat. That curtain needed to be open, and I was there, opening the curtain. That curtain needed to be closed, I was there, closing the curtain. And every rehearsal, I listened to every line of every character, and I knew that entire play back and forth. If somebody dropped right then, if somebody got sick, somebody couldn't make it, I could have stepped in. I didn't care if it was Mrs. Scrooge, Mr. Scrooge, Ebenezer, it didn't matter. I was ready to go. But I didn't. I worked the curtain. And at the end of that, at the end of the show, thinking back as well as I can, all of the kids were receiving great congratulations that were in the play. Great job, nice job, way to go. But none came my way, because I was just a curtain operator. And thinking back on that, I can't identify exactly where my personal win was. Where was my win? Where was my goal that was achieved? I guess it was on being a great curtain operator. I'm not sure. About a year later, we had a talent show at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parochial School, which really translated into 8 classes doing a lip sync of some sort for the people that came, for families and whatever. So my 7th grade class did not invite me to be part of the lip sync. They decided to do some stirring rendition of New Kids on the Block, All the Right Stuff, where they wore their denim jackets and funny hats and acid wash jeans and they French cuffed their pants, but I was not invited. But once again, I was not going to be left out, so I went to Mrs. Page, science teacher / musical director. And I said, Mrs. Page, I want to be part of this. And she said, well, what talent do you have? And I said, I don't think I have any talent. But I said, do you need a host? And she said, yes, we do. Willie, go ahead and if you can get that video. I said, do you need a host? So, 7th grade, I decided, go ahead, Willie. I decided to host. Is it playing?
The hottest new dance tracks of the year. Wall afternoon, straight up, and our 6th grade girls, Amy Fuda, Christina Di Maria, and Helen Sobel, with the help of our journeyman musician, Sal Rizza, acting to talent like it is. Straight up.
That's a good picture. And you guys wonder where Ryan Seacrest learned to do what he does. So, I was the host of the show. And more than being in front of the curtain now, behind the podium, and being able to host the show, I had worked as hard as I could to prepare for that. I had written the script with Mrs. Page. I had rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, and I did the best job I possibly could have. I had reached a goal. I had achieved some kind of success. I had found some kind of personal win. But there was one thing missing. As I even think back upon it, when the whole night was over, yes, my family was like, you did such a great job. Wow, you were so good. My teachers were like, wow, we were so impressed with you. But you know what? Well, I'm kind of glad I didn't do that dance now because they look stupid now. But all of those classmates of mine didn't really congratulate me. They didn't really appreciate me. They didn't acknowledge my efforts. But I had found a personal win. How did I do that? In reflection. Go to the next slide. Thank you. 1986, I'm still in parochial school, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and I discovered my first love, New York Yankee baseball. I wanted to be a baseball player so bad, except there were a few things that were challenging. Number one, for all the talents and gifts and things my parents gave to me, one thing they didn't give me was any athletic ability. I am just not an athlete. But I had some drive and determination. The second thing they didn't provide was an avenue to play baseball. They didn't really understand the national pastime and how you play Little League and all of those things, but that's okay. What I did was I read books on baseball, and I watched every Yankee game. We have, as many Italian families do, we have a finished basement where my family would kind of stay, and I would go into our second floor living room, and I'd lay on the orange carpet in front of a big box TV, and I'd watch WPIX, Phil Rizzuto call Yankee games every single night, and I had Yankee shirts and Yankee hats, and I did more than that. I went outside every day, and I had a few baseballs, about 3 of them, and a glove. And I had a big piece of plywood, and I put a piece of carpet over it, and I spray painted a black square, and I wrote strike against the middle. And every single day, for as long as I could remember, I would go outside and I would throw, and I would throw, and I would throw, because I was going to pitch someday. And I read instructional manuals on how to pitch, and I read about great pitchers like Catfish Hunter and Ron Guidry, and catchers like Thurman Munson. And I did all of these things, and high school came along, and I was going to try out because that was my opportunity. So I tried out for the baseball team my freshman year. And I thought I had done everything I could have done to possibly prepare to be a pitcher in high school, except I had never played. And I didn't make the team, obviously. And I remember Coach Katz, big, huge man, muscular guy, came up to me, and he said, "I'm sorry, but you didn't make the team." And again, like I said to Mrs. Page when I was in Our Lady of Mount Carmel, I said, I want to be on the team. What can I do? And he said, "Well, you could be the manager." I said, "Fine, I'll do that." And he said, "The only thing is we already have a varsity manager, so you could be the JV manager." I said, "Fine, I'll do that." So I was a JV manager for a period of time. And I had convinced myself that I would continue to work hard, and someday I would be able to realize my dream of pitching. I did not realize or find my win in that scenario. I had said that I would continue to work hard, though. And then sometimes life changes. Next one. This is me and my father, his last Christmas Eve. As you can see, I'm wearing a Yankee shirt and holding a box of chocolate somebody gave me for my birthday, probably, because that's my birthday, and he's holding an ashtray. And that was our last Christmas Eve together. Early May, he had passed away. And some losses you can't turn into wins. No matter how much you ask yourself, what could I have done? How could I have tried harder? There's not much you could have done. There's not much I could have done to convince him to quit smoking or eat healthier. There just wasn't. So life changed. And I had to change with it. And I had to move forward. What that loss taught me, though, was perspective. See, making the baseball team was crushing. Not being cast into play was disappointing. Having to stand behind the curtain was a little bit humiliating, but none of it compared to the loss of a family member. And it taught me perspective. And it taught me that I needed to keep moving forward, so I did. And after a very hard summer, a very difficult summer, I went back to school. And if you haven't been able to tell by the prior stories, I didn't exactly have a plethora of friends growing up. I was throwing to a piece of plywood. I was rehearsing to myself. I was practicing alone. My father and mother did the best they could. But I didn't have a great friend system. However, I returned to school, and whether it was out of pity or was genuine, I started making some friends. And all of those friends played football, and I discovered football. And it was something that it was probably the most life-changing thing that I discovered, was playing football, because of what it taught me. So once again, you know I have no athletic ability. And I wanted to play football. And my mom refused to let me play. And she was worried. She was concerned. And why wouldn't she be? She had to worry about how she was going to feed a family by herself and send us to college and do all of these things. The last thing she needed to worry about is me on a football field breaking my neck or spraining an ankle or anything. It was just a concern she didn't need to have. But I pushed because it was something that was important to me. And I finally convinced her to meet with my football coach. And we went into the locker room. And Coach Ryan took out all of the football pads. He took out the shoulder pads, took out the thigh pads, he even took out the butt pad. And he said, Mrs. Rizza, this is everything that I will have your son wear to protect him when he's on the field. And she said, can you promise that he won't get hurt? And he said, no, but I can promise I can do everything I can to keep him safe. So she let me play football. And for the next, and for that fall season, I was terrible. I should not really, I didn't have any purpose on the field. I was the best cheerleader ever, though. Like, honestly, on the sidelines, nobody clapped like I did. I mean, I lost my voice every single game. It was just, anyway, season ended, and I had decided that one way or another, I was going to start. I had decided that I was going to work as hard as I can. I was going to give 100%, my 100%, and it was going to be enough to get me a starting position on this football team. So the season ended, and what did I start doing? I went to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 days a week, and after school before I went to track practice. I ran, I ate well, I did everything that I could. I was in the best physical condition I possibly could have been in. I went to spring football, and I was terrible. Okay, I worked harder that summer. Twice a day, 3 days a week, I ran every day, I did everything I could. Testing came along, I tested well. Strength, conditioning, everything. At the top of all the list amongst my team. But I just wasn't good enough. And I remember one day, I was on the football field through double sessions, and it was one of those 90-degree grueling days. We were at double or triple sessions. We were running sprints up and down the field. And I was standing like this, barely breathing, not even affecting me. The rest of the team hunched over, could not take, the heat could not take. And the captain of the team, Hank Thomas, said this to me, and I will never forget it. He said, we should all be like Rizza. He ain't even breathing. That should... Those words have stuck with me forever. Because although I wasn't good enough to start, I had a place on the team, and that's what he made me feel. He helped me find my win that day, and it should have been enough. It should have been enough that he acknowledged my efforts by saying that in front of the team. And obviously the results came in. Next slide. And I learned a valuable lesson. Not everybody starts, but I earned that letter, and I'm very proud of it, and I don't care how corny it is because I worked hard and I played my best. But I learned that not everybody starts. Not everybody gets to play. Not everybody, no matter how hard you work, will earn an A. No matter how good you think you are, you might not get the job. No matter how good you think you are, you might not be cast in a part. So what do we do with that? What did I do with that? I went home. I was disappointed. I was upset. I was pissed. There were all these teammates of mine that didn't work even a quarter. They didn't work half as hard as I did. They didn't do the things that I did. But because they had some kind of natural ability, they got to play and I didn't. And I thought it was unfair. But that's life. So what did I do? I went home and I was reading my Sports Illustrated. And this ad comes up in Sports Illustrated from Barry Sanders. And it says things. It's one of those just do it things. And this is the actual ad from like 1992. And it's one of those motivational things that he may or may not have written. Demand a raise, call winners at the toughest court, try anything, speak it out, patent something, call her. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And I said, you know what? That's easy for you to say, Barry Sanders. You're in the NFL. You're one of the greatest running backs of all time. I'm not. So I wanted to say something. So at 15 years old, I sat in my living room and I started to write, and I started to write, and I started to write. And the next thing I'm going to show you, I have never shared with anyone other than my family. So I wrote what I call, thank you, the formula for victory. at 15 years old. And yes, it is corny, but so am I. And what I wrote was, through all hard work and dedication, look at who you are today and ask if it was enough. Make sure you cannot think of one time you could have tried harder. More importantly, or most importantly, you must want to be victorious. This is exactly what I wrote. I haven't changed it at all. Most importantly, you must want to be victorious in all you do, not willing to settle for second place. This is the formula for victory. In the end, if you still ask yourself, I tried my hardest, I gave it my best, how come I can't win? Realize that victory is an emotion from the soul and not points on a scoreboard or records kept. To be victorious is to achieve goals not previously attainable. The only way to lose is to stop trying. Therefore, you can never stop winning. And I wrote that to myself as a way to say, what am I going to do with all these? What am I going to do with all of these losses? I had to work the curtain, couldn't make the talent show, and now I can't start. I never am going to pitch. And I said, you know what? All I can do is put everything I have into what I do and let it be enough. I had to find my wins. So, what am I going to do with this? How do we find our wins? Moving forward, I had to not be afraid to set high expectations. Setting the bar at a B, setting the bar at a job that you really don't like, but you need to make ends meet. Setting the bar lower than you would like it to be means you're only going to achieve that. Set high expectations. Be honest with yourself about your efforts. It's easy to say, oh, I tried as hard as I could, and knowing that you didn't. Be honest with yourself on how hard you are trying. Are you putting your best foot forward? Are you giving it everything that you have? Focus on the journey to achieving your goal and not the end result. The end result is what it is. When you get it back, it's going to be whatever it's going to be. All you can do is control the journey getting there. Focus on that from the beginning to the end. And in the end, close the gap and reflect on your effort, whether you win or are unable to achieve your goal. That's the key for me. Can you look in the mirror and say, I truly did everything that I could? Whether it's a win, you consider a win, or whether it's a loss, which you consider a loss. When you are handed the end result, there is this immediate impact. There's this immediate moment that you can't help but to be disappointed. It takes time sometimes to get to that point where you can reflect and say, all right, that was everything I had. So closing that gap between the end of your journey, the beginning of your next, and coming to the realization that you have put everything forward is the key. Closing the gap, focusing on your journey, and being honest with yourself. And how do we help others find their wins? Be honest about their efforts. And I say this to you as with everyone in your lives, parents, teachers, coaches. Be honest with their efforts. Support them along their journey. It's easy at the end to say, well, what did you do to get here? It's a lot harder to say along the way, what are you doing now? Acknowledge their efforts and realize that sometimes results are just overrated. Teach others to reflect. Teach others to be able to stop and think about what it is that they have accomplished along the way. Again, it isn't the result that we're celebrating. It is the work that it takes to get there. At least that's what I believe. An easy A is an easy A. Somebody giving you a job is what they give you. But knowing that if you've done everything that you can and achieving your goals, that's priceless. Lead by example. Show others how to do this. Show others that the effort is more important than the result. What will we next? Inspire and be inspired. So I don't think I could finish this if I didn't acknowledge some people's efforts. So I thought a lot about this, and I thought a lot about what I was going to say and what I was going to do. And I said, okay, when I'm just about finished with my message, I need to acknowledge the efforts of people in this room, because they've done a lot, and they put their best foot forward. So I thought about it, and I can't obviously acknowledge everyone, but there's a few people that I'd like to acknowledge. The first is my supervisor and mentor, Mrs. Denise Bentley Drobish. her efforts in caring for students is one thing that inspires me. The patience and time she takes to listen. And if you ever had a conversation with Denise, the way she listens to you is what's inspirational. But there's a second part. There's something that's even more inspirational about Denise. There's a place where she puts effort that some of us don't get to see. And what it is the way she treats her children. And the way, every step along the way in their lives, she's trying to teach them a lesson that they can learn to be better people. And someday, if I'm blessed to have children, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able not just to achieve those goals, but to have the effort, to take the effort in doing that, making intentional decisions to make them better people. So Denise, thank you. Second person is somebody that has taught me a lot about teaching. There's two people. One is Miss Nicole Henderson, who I had the privilege of working with in her first year experience INQ class last semester. And I've been lucky to teach this semester for the first time in INQ class, some of whom are sitting in the back of the room. And what her efforts are in terms of not just with a class and facilitating conversation and inspiring them to be able to have intelligent discourse about complicated subjects, is her ability to help build this huge first-year experience program and to see the goals that we've been able to attain. So I'd like to acknowledge her efforts. In order to put some effort forward, you have to have a passion for what you do. And there's no one that is more passionate about teaching than my wife, Mrs. Rizza. We have a little saying in our house. When she doesn't feel well and she wants to call out, she doesn't feel like going to work because her stomach bothers her, she has a massive headache. She says, I don't think I'm going to work. And I say, you know what teachers do? They teach. And she goes. She hates missing a day with the kids. She has a passion for teaching. She puts so much effort into helping build young minds. And it's a passion that has inspired me to have just as much of an effort, just as much of a dedication to what I do here. So I acknowledge her efforts. The last person is somebody who tries harder at making people happy than anybody else I know. And I'll tell a little story about him and he'll know who it is. Actually, it's my brother, Carmelo. He has spent his entire life trying to make everyone else happy. In fact, one of my favorite stories to tell is when we used to go trick-or-treating. He would go and he'd collect enormous bags of candy, like pillowcases full of candy. And he'd come home and he'd run up to his room and he'd hide it. We're like, what the hell is he doing? And this is what he would do. Christmas morning, we'd wake up and our stockings would be filled with Halloween candy. Every dime that he earned, he saved because he wanted to make all of us happy with buying us presents. And about 2 years ago, I walked into his house, and this picture, this framed picture of Formula for Victory hangs in his house. And it was a moment that inspired me, knowing that my words had made a difference to him. Because all he's ever done is try to make us all happy. So I want to acknowledge his efforts, and I hope that all of us can learn from him on making others happy and trying your best to do so. When I have an opportunity like I do tonight, or when I have some kind of major event in my life, I like to dedicate it to somebody. I dedicated my master's degree to my mom. So tonight, no surprise, I'd like to dedicate tonight to my brother. You guys know me. There was no way that my dog wasn't going to make it into the college. I'd like to dedicate tonight to my brother for always being there and making us, his family, all happy, or trying, and having that kind of effort put forward. So as kind of wrap up tonight, will you? Is it going? Oh. I hope that you can all find your personal wins, no matter what the results are. I hope you can help those around you find their personal wins, no matter what the results are. Tonight, I have kind of been lucky because all of my years, all of my time spent here, all of my hard work, all of my effort and dedication at Southern has resulted in all of you allowing me to achieve a win for myself. So I want to thank you all for helping me achieve a win tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you.